Hey, Johnny Ballgame here. What's going on? You're not going to hire a basketball coach to fix your house up. You're not going to hire a gardener to operate on your hands. So why would you hire anybody but a solid professional when it comes to audio and visual production? You wouldn't. You're going to hire Brent Clapp. Brent Clapp Productions has a gorgeous studio, 4th Street in downtown LeGrand. I sign off on this 1,000%. I broadcast my show here every day. It's not some guy in the back room, although he once was. Brent has a qualified track record and a proven history in this business. Whatever production needs you may have are taken care of by pros, professionals. And not to mention, they're a Travel Oregon award-winning company. Yeah, stuff that they've produced has went on to win big-time media awards throughout the state. You don't have to go to the other side of the state. You don't have to do it on your own. You don't have to call a basketball coach. No. So listen to Ballgame. Brent Clapp Productions. It's where you need to be. Ha 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 ha.
Hey, EO Live, thanks for joining us today for this CHD COVID update. And as always, it's great to have Carrie with me here today. So how you doing, Carrie? Since we last talked, you have kids that are going to school and coming home, and are you adjusting to all of that schedule?
Yeah, actually, my kids had an opportunity to do a really short period of time at school today in a small group. And so this was our second first day, if that makes sense. So a little bit of an adjustment. Our routines are different all the time now. I mean, we're just rolling with it day to day. And, so far, so good. I imagine that we will continue to have things not be the way they were a year ago, but we'll just continue to adapt.
Yeah, well, and I had an interview with the school district a couple of weeks ago, and, they're all just adapting too. I mean, that's just kind of what we're doing is organizations are figuring out how to move forward to some kind of business as normal, along with, being careful. So,
absolutely.
So we've talked about wrap services a number of times. Maybe give us a little bit of a synopsis again for those people that don't know. I'll put the graphic up while you're talking of those services, but tell us again, just a synopsis of what that is, Carrie.
Yeah, I know we've talked about it quite a few times, but I feel like it's important to keep bringing it up because the reality is that you don't maybe know that you need it until you need it. So I think it's a really good reminder. I know sometimes I don't pay attention to something and then I realize like, oh, I need to know that now. So I wish I would have paid attention before. So, I mean, the idea is that we ask people to isolate and quarantine when they either become confirmed COVID-19 positive or if they've been a contact to a confirmed case. So we want to make that possible for people. And we know that sometimes that's not easy. You may need to have food brought to your house. Like you can't go to the grocery store and you need some food or some medicine. You need financial assistance for maybe you can't pay your utilities because you're out of work for a couple of weeks. Maybe you need health insurance. You didn't have it before. You want some help in getting on a health plan. There's all kinds of services that are wraparound team. We have multiple community-based organizations that are ready to provide people with a broad range of support services. So, if you've been asked to isolate or quarantine, we really want people to have any need at all. Just reach out to our wraparound coordinator and ask them if there's any kind of supports. If they can't help you, they'll let you know, but hopefully we can figure out some sort of support given the broad range of community-based organizations. I think we also want to let people know that even if you're not in one of those categories, the community-based organizations provide services to our community, and there may be things that they can help you with as well. I mean, we know that things have changed due to COVID-19 and that even if you're not a confirmed case or even if you weren't a contact, there may be some situation in your life that's different than it was a year ago, like we were just talking about. And so the wraparound services are just a resource that you might be able to access during this time. And, I think sometimes our situations change and we didn't need the help 2 weeks ago and we need it today. And so we just really want the community to know that's available. And our community-based organizations have such a broad range of services, and I'm not even going to list all of them. The best thing to do is to go to the website, the neonoregon.org/Union County COVID-19, I think it is. I'm sorry, I don't have it pulled up in front of me. And then there's a phone number and an email for a wraparound coordinator. The phone number is, do you have it up there?
And it's actually,
okay.
Yeah. So.
Okay. I will just let folks look there then. Thanks. It's easier than me finding it.
Yeah. So the EOU opened last week and they had a big, massive testing. And I think some of the RAP services folks were a part of helping that event also. Talk about what did EOU do and how did that work? And I don't know, maybe give me a little conversation about that from you guys' perspective.
Yeah, so I can't speak on behalf of EOU, but I can definitely give you a little bit of information from our perspective. So, one of the things that EOU did when they brought all of their students back is they just kind of did a baseline testing. They wanted to make sure that they kind of had everybody who came onto campus isolating or quarantining, depending on their situation, getting testing for all of the students that would be returning to campus, and then, make sure that they were able to isolate and really, really reduce the risk to the EOU community and the broader community of Union County. So, they have a dashboard that they're sharing on their website where people can go get information about the number of tests they've done, the number of students that tested positive, students that are in quarantine. I mean, they're sharing all this information publicly so the community knows, knows what's going on. On the day that they did the testing for the community, I know that many of our community-based organizational partners that are providing the wraparound services were there on site at the testing event to provide a broad range of resources to our student community. So again, they could have information about the services that are available in our community. So they would be able to isolate or quarantine depending on their circumstances. And so, it was just a great way for us to get more information out to the community of students that may not be here year-round and may be coming back to Union County, so we can make sure they had good information and connected them with the resources that are available to them through our partners.
Well, and it sounded, we talked with Lacey Carpello a little bit last week, and it sounds like they were very intentional about what they did. I mean, they had it well organized. They, it was well put together, and I really, sounds like they did due diligence, and I really appreciate, as a community member, it sounds like they really worked at it.
Yeah, I have to say, all of our schools, EOU and our K through 12 schools, everybody has worked very, very hard to take the recommendations and guidance seriously and to really put mitigations in place to keep our community safe. And you're right, the EOU event was very well organized. I will say that I've had multiple meetings with multiple EOU folks, like before that testing event, to make sure that we coordinated, what do we do if we get a positive test result? How do we handle the negative test results? Like, how are we communicating information so we, as a public health department, can do that investigation really quickly and really identify cases, get them isolated. That's what we want. That's how we minimize the spread of virus in our community. And like I said, it was very well thought out, very well planned, and they worked very hard to get that together. So yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah. And for those of that might be interested, the link for their dashboard is in the comments on the Facebook feed here. And so if people can keep track of that. And there was an uptick. I think we had 7 or 10 cases during that testing period of time. But given the number of students that they tested, that was not abnormal, I don't think at all, So
yeah, I think we could have had a lot more cases. And if you look at some of the other universities in our state that have also done baseline testing, they've had a few more. So I think we were really fortunate. And I think, we'll just need to continue to put the mitigations in place that we've talked about so we can continue to keep those numbers down.
Right. And they had a plan for isolating those positive students, monitoring them over, the needed period of time. And I mean, I thought it was really well done. So
yeah,
hey, let's talk about trick or treat. That's on the minds and the hearts of a lot of parents and kids right now. And I'm on the Downtown Main Street Association board, and we made the very unpopular decision of canceling the Main Street portion of trick or treat event, knowing that, businesses are still going to hand out candy. Kids are still going to come down and trick or treat. We have no intention of controlling what individuals do, but it was an event that was, since that's a sponsored event from Main Street, then it puts us in a place of having to monitor 1,000 people. And it was an impossible thing. So we essentially, kind of pulled our endorsement from that, and we endorsed the Parks Department. LeGrand Parks Department is having a drive-through trick or treat event on that same night. No, it's not the same, but it is an alternative. But given all of that, why don't you talk generally about some of the things that may be some recommendations for parents with the trick-or-treating event, and I don't know, talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I think, I really understand that this is a tradition that people are really used to. It brings a lot of joy to us. It's a celebration that I personally partake in every year. I love going downtown and trick-or-treating. I love seeing our community members, connecting with other people, seeing the creative costumes. Like I feel like I'm really, really sad that we're not going to be able to experience that this year. But, I keep really looking to the reasons why we need to take these actions that we're asking people to take, and why, the Oregon Health Authority is not recommending that we do traditional trick-or-treating and that we not do our trunk or treat events like the downtown event. And, the reason is, number one, we talk about our at-risk populations, and we still really do need to keep the virus low. And when we look at places where the virus is most likely to spread and potentially result in an outbreak. It's definitely large gatherings when we're interacting with people outside of our household. And, that event downtown, certainly there's so many people that go there. It's very crowded. It's very hard to maintain the physical distancing. So, I think it creates a risk of spreading the virus in our community. I think the other thing that I have been thinking about too, with the higher risk populations too, I mean, you're going door to door, so you could be interacting with people that have been doing a great job of isolating, are in a higher risk category, but then maybe you're going to their door and potentially putting them at risk of contracting the virus. So, I think just from looking at our high risk populations, again, I'm trying really hard to remember that we're doing all those people that may have a serious case of the virus, a serious or severe outcome, protected. And the other thing that I keep thinking about is school. We just talked right when we started about the fact that most of the students in Union County are back in class in person. Not quite all of them yet, but many of them have had the opportunity to be in the classroom with their teacher. And I know that that's really important for our community. I talk to understand the value of having students being in classrooms. And we need to basically not do these other activities or limit our interactions with people outside of our household to the greatest extent possible so we can keep students in school. Because the reality is if we have a large outbreak or a large uptick in cases, there is a chance that students will have to go back to comprehensive distance learning. And I know that most of our community does not want to see that. We want kids in school. So this is really an action that we can take to stop the spread of the virus and not put those things at risk, both the people in our community that could really become severely ill and, keep our students in class. I know for me, like we've definitely talked about it. I've shared with you before that I'm really honest with my kids about why we're doing things, and they get it. Like they understand why we need to take these actions. They understand that it's not going to be forever. And so what we've talked about is basically trying to come up with some other fun, unique tradition. So, we've talked about like what we might be able to do different to celebrate this year. So, trying to come up with really creative ways to celebrate the holiday that don't involve interacting with people outside of your household, that don't involve gathering in large groups, that minimize the risk that we're putting, creating in the community. I know that on our website and on our Facebook page and on the Oregon Health Authority website, there's a lot of information about low risk, moderate risk, and high risk activities. And so I think it's helpful to go look at those activities, number one, to get ideas for things that you could do. And number two, to kind of get a sense of what activities might be high risk. Again, with the idea that we have all these kids running around interacting with people outside of their household and then going back to the classroom 2 days later and potentially leading to an outbreak that could have an impact on our schools being able to have kids in class. So I think all of that information can be found on our Facebook page. It's a lot of information there. So again, just really encourage people to be creative. I think the other thing that I want to say is, I know you mentioned that there are alternative events happening, and there are different entities are trying to create safe opportunities for, different types of celebration, which I think is great. I do really want to remind people that they still need to think about limiting their contact with people outside of their household. So, for example, if we pile in our car and then go pick up a couple of other kids and we're sitting in a car together for a period of time, we're again putting ourselves at risk, or putting our neighbors at risk, or putting our friends at risk. So it's a good idea to really keep those car loads full of people that are just in your own house, and really again do our best to limit our interactions with other people. And I think the other thing I want to say is that if you do decide to dress up and you do decide to go out and about, the face mask that might be part of your Halloween costume is not going to be a substitute for a face covering or face mask that we would use to protect each other from COVID-19. And so I would encourage people to make sure that they pick a costume where they can still wear their face covering or even integrate their face covering into their costume. Again, I think it's an opportunity for us to get creative and maybe even create some new traditions that will continue on into the years to come.
Yeah, somebody on Facebook suggested that what about a candy hunt like Easter egg, only at home, doing it at home. And I think, it's kind of like high school graduation. Everybody struggled with how in the world are we going to do that? And certainly it wasn't the same. It was compromised in some ways, but in others, it was incredibly unique. I mean, there will be an exclamation mark around those people that graduated in 2020. And so, I think that you're right. This is that same opportunity. I'm sure there's lots of ways that parents can create unique opportunities for their kids, and so, and they should dress up. I mean, that's half the fun, even for adults, and I do know that, LeGrand Main Street is still having a costume contest. People can, send in their photos or hashtag them in a particular way, and there will be prizes that will still be handed out for costumes. It's just not going to happen in that traditional way.
Yeah. And I think people can, again, hopefully embrace those things and really remember the reasons why we're asking people to do this. And, it's not going to always be like this. So just right now, we just need to act a little differently.
Yep, that's right. So flu season on top of everything else, here we are, it's coming in. So talk about what you guys are thinking about flu season and your recommendations for folks as that comes into play.
Yeah, I was on a call with some of my colleagues yesterday, and one of them said, we've been at this almost a year. And, the truth of the matter is that if I think about it, like we started tracking what was going on with COVID-19 in January, and we are in October, and here we are now, we're entering flu season. If you remember way back in the beginning of all of this, every time we talked about flattening the curve, and we talked about hospital capacity. And I think that as we enter flu season, we really do need to think about flattening the curve again, and we need to think about hospital capacity. So we're not only going to have COVID-19 circulating in our community, but we're probably going to have a lot of other viral infections circulating, including the flu. And so right now, we really do need to focus on keeping the amount of disease or virus that's spreading in the community as low as possible. So when people have a severe case of illness and they need hospitalization, we have the ability to provide those services to them. Now, we've been really fortunate in Union County and in our region, which we look at regional hospital capacity. We've been really fortunate. We've had the capacity that we need to manage COVID-19, but we're going to pile influenza on top of this here soon. And hopefully the mitigations we put into place for COVID-19 will keep the flu circulation lower this year as well. The fact that we're hopefully limiting our physical interactions with people, not having super close contact with people outside of our household, wearing our face coverings, washing our hands a little bit more than maybe we did last flu season, and being a little more serious about staying home if we aren't feeling well. Hopefully that's also going to keep the flu circulation down. But the wonderful thing is that we have a vaccine for flu, which can also be a really amazing tool in keeping the amount of flu that's in our community down as well. So I feel like this time of year, we would be talking about flu vaccine regardless. I feel like this year, it's even more critical for us to take that seriously and really do our part to get vaccinated. So CHD is actually going to try and do things a little bit differently this year than we normally have, with the virus in mind, making sure that we're keeping our community safe and limiting the risk to our community members. Because I understand right now, people might not want to go out as much. People might not want to go to their pharmacy to get vaccinated if they did that in the past, or, if they're not going to their doctor for another reason, they may not want to go there just for the flu vaccine. So we're going to set up some drive-through flu clinics with the idea that you can literally just come to our facility, drive up, and within a few minutes get your vaccine and head off. So again, we're doing that a little bit differently this year to keep folks safe and to try and minimize the risk of folks getting transmitting the virus. So I do want to say just a couple of really important things about this. Because of the way that we're doing it this year, we are requiring people to call ahead. I know sometimes when we talk about drive-through flu vaccine clinics or anything drive-through, people think they can just show up and get vaccinated. We really need people to call ahead and schedule a time. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually try and get every bit of the paperwork and information that you need done over the phone. So when you come to get vaccinated, your appointment's going to be as short as possible. So we need people, even though they're drive-through flu vaccine clinics, we do need people to call ahead. And so they can call CHD at 541-962-8800. And they can get signed up for one of our vaccine clinics. So those right now we have 2 scheduled. One is on Friday, October 16th from 9 to noon and 1 to 4. And then the second one is on Monday, the 19th of October from 2 to 6 p.m. So we do need people to call. And if for some reason those times don't work for you, but you still want to get vaccinated, do call that number and we'll see if we can find another way to get you set up for an appointment. We want everybody to get the vaccine. We understand those times might not work for anybody. So, please call that number and we'll get you set up and we'll get the paperwork done. And hopefully it'll just be super easy. You'll drive up, we'll talk to you for a few minutes, we'll get you vaccinated, and then you'll be good to go for the season.
Well, and that information is posted in the Facebook comments as we were talking. And so there is that information there also that you said. So, well, that's great. Thank you guys for doing that. Thanks for thinking ahead. I mean, most of us we're just coping with day to day. We're not out there thinking about, what might complicate our lives down the road. And, I think the guidelines that we've been following for COVID are certainly the same things that we just need to do to prevent, spreading the flu to each other. And staying home when you're not feeling well is just a huge step.
Yeah.
Towards making that work, and I appreciate you say flattening the curve, because that, the conversation has kind of morphed over the last many months to where people are actually still shocked that COVID cases are happening, and, I don't think the goal, although we don't want to create hotspots or outbreaks, the goal is not realistic that we're eliminating COVID from happening or infecting folks and so on and so forth. And so sometimes people are shocked. They were shocked that there were 7 or 10 cases, that came out of the testing of EOU, and it's like, it's just a math thing. Those are just math numbers. It's not that somebody's irresponsible. It's not, it's just, that is the situation that we're in. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't think we're going to eliminate the virus at this point, but we are trying to keep the numbers as low as possible and really try and catch it quickly so we don't have outbreaks.
Right. Yeah. But at the same time, kids need to go back to school. I mean, we're trying to mitigate the risk the best possible way. But, for all of those things, when we shut off life or shut off business or school, all of those things have detrimental effects also. And it's just a matter of weighing those things and making the best, wisest decisions on how to push forth in life in some way, but yet do it in as responsible of a way as possible. So.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, Carrie, thank you always for joining me and jumping in. And I always appreciate it. I always appreciate our conversations. And thanks for being here today. And we'll plan on being together 2 weeks from today also. So, and thank you, EO Alive, for tuning in. Always appreciate our sponsors, Grand Ronde Hospital and EO and I, for being a part of this. And just a little bit of a note, next Thursday night, we will have a political forum of all of the council members that are running. I think there's 10 of them and all together that are running for the Grand City Council. And there will be a live forum for that event. And so be sure and watch for that information. It'll be right here on EO Live TV. Thanks so much.